So flowchart is nothing but it is a pictorial or a graphical representation of a solution to a given problem. When it comes to the program flowchart, it will only concern about the sequence of instruction. How to represent that sequence of instruction in the form of pictorial or a graphical representation. So debugging is nothing but what? It will going to check and if there any error occurs, that needs to be rectified. Flow direction mainly indicates the direction of a processing or data flow. Hello everyone, welcome to the session 3 on 5th chapter, that is problem solving methodology. Myself Rohini TS, lecturer in computer science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. So in my last session, we had a discussion regarding how to design an algorithm. I have discussed some of the algorithm design. For that, we have to follow several stages, right? So what is the first step? That is, step 1 is always start. Then we have to take the inputs in step 2. So we have to analyze the algorithm or we have to analyze the problem. So based on that problem, we have to analyze what are the inputs that we require. So that must be takes place in the step 2. So I am supposed to take the input in step 2. When it comes to the step 3, so in step 3 we are going to process. That means the calculation part will going to happen in step 3. Then what about step 4? So in step 4, after the calculation, we are going to give the output, that is result. So once I am done with all these stages, at last I have to stop. So that is step 5, stop. Getting? So these are the stages that we need to follow while writing a solution for any given problem by making use of the algorithm. And also I had discussed advantages and disadvantages of an algorithm. So when it comes to the advantages of an algorithm, it will be always step by step refinement of a process so that it will be easier. After that, what is one more advantages? It is independent of a programming language. So it does not depend on any of the programming languages. So that is, it is independent of any of the programming languages. And it has a finite number of stages. So at one point of time, it has to stop its execution and it will be easier to debug. That is, it is a step-by-step procedure so that any error occurs in a particular stage that will be easily rectified. That is easy to debug. Then what are the disadvantages with regards to this algorithm? It is time consuming. That is one of the disadvantages. So it is time consuming. So why it is time consuming? Because it will take more time to write and to work on each stages. So if it is simple problem or a simple program, then it will be okay. So what about if the program contains thousands of lines or 10,000s of lines? Then at the time this will be time consuming. Along with that, first we are supposed to create an algorithm that needs to be converted into flowchart, then that needs to be converted into any higher level programming language. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of an algorithm. Then how we are going to analyze an algorithm? So that will be based on the space complexity and time complexity. So what is the memory required in order to run the program or in order to run that algorithm? That is regarding the space complexity. And when it comes to the time, how much time it will going to take in order to run that algorithm. Okay, so based on these two parameters, we are going to choose the best algorithm in order to solve a given problem. So this is about analysis of an algorithm. So then how many cases will be there? So with regards to that, we have 3 cases. So which are those 3 cases? It can be either best case or average case or even worst case. So these are the 3 stages or 3 possibilities with regards to the analysis of an algorithm. So this is what I have discussed in my previous session. So in today's session, we are going to learn about what is flowchart and why the flowchart is important. That is importance of a flowchart. Along with that, we are going to discuss about what are the flowchart symbols. Okay. So let me move on to the first step, that is flowchart. So we already know that It comes under a designing tools, right? So once we define the problem, then we are supposed to analyze the problem. After the analysis, we have to design the solution for a problem. Then what are the methods that I can use in order to design a problem? That is with the help of an algorithm and flowchart. So algorithm is nothing but it is a step-by-step procedure in order to solve a given problem. That will be the first thing. So when it comes to the one more designing tool, that is flowchart. So then what is flowchart? So flowchart is nothing but it is a pictorial or a graphical representation of a solution to a given problem. So here also we are finding a solution, but the way of approach is different than the algorithm. So in algorithm, we are going to make that as a step-by-step procedure. But when it comes to the flowchart, here we are going to make the solution in the form of pictorial or a graphical representation. Okay. So then what is flowchart here? It is a graphical or a pictorial representation of a solution to any of the problem. Okay. So based on the problem, we are going to give the solution that will be in the format of pictorial or a graphical representation. So then how the flowchart will going to be divided or how it will be classified? So the flowcharts are classified into two categories. So what are the two methods or a classification of a flowchart? That is two methods, program flowchart and system flowchart. So how the flowcharts are classified? Into two parts, that is program flowchart and system flowchart. So what do you mean by program flowcharts then? So program flowchart. So we know that flowchart is mainly used to represent the solution in terms of pictorial or a graphical representation. So when we are representing this as a program flowchart, then it depicts that it represents or presents a diagrammatic representation of a sequence of instruction for a solving a problem. So here I am not concerned about the whole problem. So I am just thinking about its sequence. So if it is the first step, then what must be the next step? If it is the next step, then what could be the one more step? So in that manner, we are going to think or we are going to give the representation in terms of sequence. That is, it will going to give the representation or it will going to give the pictorial representation of a solution in terms of sequence of instruction. So that is regarding program flowchart. Then what about the system flowchart? So in system flowchart, it comprises of several programs. That means what? It will going to have an overall look of a problem solution. So that means what? System flowchart, it will going to indicate the flow of data throughout a data processing system. So here it is not only concerning about the sequence, so it is also concerning about the overall flow of a data. So that is regarding system flowchart. That means what? It will going to indicate a overall flow of a data throughout the data processing. So what is the data processing then? So it will be starts from problem specification. First we have to specify the problem, that means definition, then it will be analyzed, then it will going to design. So in that design we are going to use this flow chart. So when I am using this system flow chart, it will going to analyze all these parts until it reaches to the maintenance part or implementation part. So that is regarding system flow chart. It will going to indicate or it will going to represent the flow of a data throughout a data processing system. So that means the flow into and out of the system. What are the data that we are taking? What are the data it is going out of the system? Everything will get analyzed and that will be represented in the form of pictorial or a graphical representation with the help of this system flow chart. So totally we have two methods, program flowchart and system flowchart. When it comes to the program flowchart, it will only concern about the sequence of instruction. How to represent that sequence of instruction in the form of pictorial or a graphical representation. That is regarding program flowchart. When it comes to the system flowchart, it comprises of more than one program. That means what? Along with the sequence of instruction, it will going to represent overall activity of a data processing. How the data is moving from in and out. So that will be represented graphically or a pictorial representation that can be done with the help of this system flowchart. Then what are the importance of flowchart? How the flowchart is important? Very, very important question. That is importance of a flowchart. So how the flowchart is important? So we know that one image is equal to 1000 words. right? So instead of saying anything as a textually or a verbally, so we can show one picture that will depict that. That means that that will be equal to 1000 of words, right? So here also in a flow chart, we are going to use the pictorial or a graphical representation of a solution to any problem. How the flow chart will be important, we'll see now. So when it comes to the first point, that is communication. So there must be a communication between the data flow, right? So if there is no communication between the data flow, then there will be no connection for the data in and out. So communication is very, very important in order to exchange the data or in order to exchange the information, right? So communication in the sense what? Flowcharts are better way of communication of all the logic of a program. Why? Because it is in the form of pictorial or a graphical representation. So we are going to use the flow chart in order to represent it in a more effective manner, so that for the communication purpose, it will be more convenient. Rather than the text, the pictorial representation is very effective. Then effective analysis. What is the next importance of a flow chart? That is effective analysis. So with the help of this flow chart, we can easily analyze the problem solution. So that is, the problem can be analyzed in a more effective way. So if I get into the flow chart, then I can easily get to know that which is the input, what processing is going on, and what is the output, and when it will be stopped, because there must be termination at some point, so that it will be more effective analysis. So the analysis of a problem will be more effective and more easier when we are working with this flow chart. So next we have proper documentation. So what is the one more importance of a flow chart? So that is important. It has a proper documentation. So why documentation is important? So documentation in the sense, we are going to keep the data and information as the permanent use. So that will be in the permanent form. Okay. So whenever we require, at that time we can go into that and we can fetch the details out of that flow chart. So that means now I am going to draw a flow chart in order to find the area of a circle. So I am going to write this flow chart in order to find the area of a circle. Okay. So this will be one flow chart. But I want to use this same flow chart in one more program. So here I have written an area of a circle as a one flow chart. But I want to have one more area of a triangle and area of a rectangle along with that area of a circle. At that time, what I am going to do? I am not going to create one more flow chart for area of a circle. Instead of that, whatever the flow chart that I have drawn earlier, that will be copied to here. So if it is documented properly, then we can use that for the future use. So what program flow charts will serve as a good program documentation, which will be needed for various programs. I can use the same flow chart. So I can take the same flow chart for more than one programs. So if it is well documented. Next we have efficient coding. So what is this efficient coding? We know that first we are supposed to create an algorithm, then flow chart, then that will be converted into any of the high level programming languages, right? When it comes to the efficient coding, the flow chart acts as a guide or a blueprint during the system analysis and program development phase. So which is the prior phase or a stage of the program development? So that is flowchart only. Algorithm, then flowchart, then that will be converted into any of the higher level programming languages. Then, so this flowchart will become the reference, or it will going to act as a guide or a blueprint in order to analyze the system or in order to analyze the problem, and we can copy the content of this flow chart and that can be represented as a program solution. So that how the efficient code can be done, because this flow chart will going to act as a guide or a blueprint in order to write a programming code, so that it will going to bring efficient coding. So next we have proper debugging. So anyway, it will be in the pictorial or a graphical representation, right? So I have several stages. In each stage, it will going to perform a particular task. So when it comes to the debugging process, so debugging is nothing but what? It will going to check and if there any error occurs, that needs to be rectified. So checking and correcting of errors is nothing but debugging. Okay, so if it is in the pictorial form or if it is in some of the shapes or some of the symbols, at that time I will easily get to know that yes, I am getting error in this stage. So instead of looking into all the stages, I can directly move to a particular stage and I will get to know that yes, there is a bug or there is a error. So when it comes to the flowchart, that is proper debugging can be happened with this flowchart. That means what? It will directly reach us to a particular stage and the rectification of that error or removing of that error will be easier. That is what the flowchart will going to help in debugging process. So debugging is nothing but what? Checking and correcting of the errors. So errors are nothing but bugs. So what is the last importance of this flowchart? That is efficient program maintenance. So as I discussed, it has a proper documentation. If it has a proper documentation, so it can be maintained very well. How it will going to work as a proper maintenance? For the proper maintenance, that means the maintenance of a program become easy with the help of this flowchart. So that means what? If I want to add any of the extra features to the already existing flowchart, then that can be done easily. So these are the importance of a flowchart. Then what are the importance of a flowchart? It is well for the communication and effective analysis can be done. Then proper documentation is there that will be help for the future days, and efficient coding can be done because it will going to act as a blueprint or a guide, and proper debugging can be takes place and efficient program maintenance can be happen with the help of this flowchart. So now we'll see important flowchart symbols along with its purpose. So this is very important question for 5 marks. What is flowchart? Explain the symbols used in the flowchart. At the time what you are supposed to write? You have to take a symbol along with its process or its purpose. So we know that flowchart is nothing but it is a graphical or a pictorial representation of a solution. So what we are going to do? So in order to represent a solution, we are going to use the symbols. So each symbol will be unique. That will going to serve a different purposes. Okay. So now we'll see one by one. So this symbol, that is terminal. So why we require this terminal? That is to indicate start or a stop. So as we discussed in the algorithms, there must be a first and last step must be always same. That is start and stop. So then how to use the start and stop in the flowchart? That is with the help of this terminal symbol. Okay, so this is terminal symbol, and why we are going to use this terminal symbol? In order to start or stop. So this indicates the beginning and end or point of interruption in a program. So if there any interruption occurs, any disturbance occurs, so that will be represented with the help of this terminal. Which is the next symbol that we have? Parallelogram. So what is this parallelogram? So this represents an input or output. We know that what? Flowchart must accept one or more input. So it has to give the desired output. How this will going to happen? That is with the help of this parallelogram symbol. So this symbols represents the input or a output. That is input or output data or any information with regards to the problem solving. So what is the next one? That rectangle represents the processing. So this represents the calculation. If there any calculation part is there, first we need to start, then we have to take the input, then the calculation part must going to happen. So when we are using this rectangle symbol, that will going to represent as a process. That means we are calculating something. So represent the calculation or any data manipulations or any of the information processing. So this symbol is used for the calculation purpose. Then we have this one. So this is indicated as preparation. So this is also used for the looping purpose. So as of now, you just get to know what are the symbols and what is its purpose. But when you are designing a flowchart, at that time you will be able to use all these symbols. So as of now, you just understand what are the symbols we have and what is its each purpose. Okay, so this is mainly used for the looping. I need to take more than one loop or more than one iteration. At the time, we are going to use this looping symbol. So an instruction or a group of instruction which changes the program. So I have a set of condition that needs to be repeated more than one time. At the time, we are going to use this looping symbol. So next we have rhombus. So that is mainly used for the decision or a branching. So as I discussed, there could be more than one solution for a single problem. So if not, and I'm going with this one. That means what? There will be more than one kind of solution for each type of a problem. So then how to define that branching, how to define the alternatives? So that is with the help of this rhombus symbol that is mainly used for decision or a branching. So this represents a comparison. So if I want to go with this one or that one, I have to be compared. So when the comparison takes place, at the time we are going to use this rhombus symbol, that is decision making or a branching. So represents a comparison or a question or a decision that determines the alternative paths to be followed. So what is the main thing? Alternative paths. So this one or that one. At that time, we are going to use this symbol, that is decision making or a branching. Next, we have predefined process. So this is a group of operation not detailed in the particular set of flowchart. So I am not going to give all the details in a flowchart. Instead of that, I am going to take one predefined process and I will make that as a separate one. So what it indicates? It indicates as a sub-process, that is predefined process, a group of operation that is not detailedly explained in the flowchart. Okay, so in your website and all, you are going to get what? Some of the hyperlinks. So if you click on that hyperlink, that will take you to somewhere page. That means that will take you to the page which is related to that hypertext. So instead of giving all the details in a particular page, I am going to give only its reference or I am going to give only its hyperlink. So then that will reach us to the more detailed data. So in the same way here, predefined process in the sense, so instead of giving all the details in a flowchart, I am going to use this predefined process that has a several set of instruction to be followed. So that is the usage of this predefined process. What is the next symbol? That is connector. So we know that the importance of flowchart is mainly for the communication purpose, right? How the communication will going to happen? That is with the help of this connector. So this connector represents an entry form or an exit to the another part of the program flowchart. So what it indicates? It indicates that it is an opening or a starting point or entry point and exit point from one program to another program or one part of a program to another part of a program. That is the usage of this connector. So what is the last symbol that we have? That is directions. That represents the flow direction. So the direction of a processing of a data flow. So it represents what? It represents the direction of a processing, how the data is moving, whether it is moving inside or outside, in and out of the program, everything will get represented with the help of this flow direction. So it can be in all the four directions. So that is flow direction mainly indicates the direction of a processing or data flow. Okay, so what are the symbols we have? That is terminal, then input or output, and for processing and preparation, then decision or a branching, then predefined process, and we have a connectors along with a flow direction. So now we'll see the example in order to design a flowchart and an algorithm to find the area of a square. So what we are doing now, we are finding an area of a square. So in order to do this, first we have to analyze the problem. So this is a square, I am finding the area of a square, and how I am going to find the area of a square? That is multiplication of one side with another side, because all the four sides are equal. So that will going to give me the area of a square. Then how to write an algorithm for this one? First we are supposed to write an algorithm, then flowchart, then that will be converted into any other programming languages. So the first step is always start. Then when it comes to the second step, here we have to take the input. So what is the input that I am taking? I am taking an input as a side. Then what will be the calculation part? That is stage 3. What is the calculation part here? I need to find the area of a square. How to find that area? Area is equal to side, which is multiplied by another side. So I am done with the calculation. Then I am supposed to give the output or a result. How it will be displayed? By making use of output. So output, then which is the output here? Area. So we are done with output and all. At last, I am going to stop. Okay, so these are the steps which I require in order to write an algorithm. So now we'll convert this algorithm into flowchart now. Previous slides we have analyzed the shapes and its purpose. So how to write this start? By making use of the flowchart. So if you see here, terminal is used in order to write the start and stop. So that here we are going to use the terminal in order to give the start. Then which is the next step? Input side. So for input which we are going to take, that is parallelogram. So these all arrows indicates the data flow, how the data is flowing from one stage to next stage. So that input side. So after the second stage, what is the third one? That is we are finding an area. Area is equal to side into side. So that here we are doing the calculation part. So calculation in the sense what? Which one I am supposed to take? That is processing. So for processing, rectangle symbol. So area is equal to side into side. So calculation over, then where it has to be displayed? It must be displayed with the help of parallelogram or a output symbol. That is output area. Okay. At last, I am done with all the stages. I must stop. So this is stop. Which symbol we are using here? That is terminal. Okay. So this is in order to write a flowchart and algorithm. First algorithm, then flowchart. After that, any other programming language conversion will going to happen. We have one more, that is in order to design a flowchart and an algorithm to find the area and circumference of a circle. So what we are doing now? So here we are finding a area and circumference of a circle. So I am supposed to take the radius. So with the help of that radius, we are going to find an area along with the circumference. Then how to find the area of a circle? That is area is equal to pi r square. Have you seen this pi symbol in your keyboard? No, right? How we are going to write this pi in the computer science language instead of taking the symbol? So what is the equivalent value of the pi? So there we have 3.14. It is equal to pi, right? So we cannot take r square. So have you seen any of the keywords like this one in your keyboard? No. So instead of taking r square, I am going to multiply it twice. So that I am going to get r into r as a r square. So here we don't have anything in between in the sense that is product. Product in the sense multiplication. Don't take x. So it must be like star. So that indicates the multiplication. Getting? So here area is equal to pi r square. So pi is 3.14, r square in the sense r into r. Then how to find the circumference? That is circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So for this also, I have to take 2 as it is, then multiplication symbol, then pi in the sense 3.14 and into r in the sense radius. Getting? So this is how we are going to find. That is regarding area and circumference. So which is the first step? When it comes to the algorithm, start is the first step. When it comes to the second step, that is input. So what is the input that I require? Can I take this 2 pi everything as an input? No, I just require only radius. So that I am going to take an r value as the input. That is input r or a radius. So you can give any name. Okay. So it must follow the identifier rule. Then step 3, that is calculation. How I am going to do that? So here I am going to take this area as a calculation part along with a circumference. So I am done with the calculation. It has to be displayed to the user, that is in the fourth stage. So display or output where the value has been stored. That has been stored in the area along with the circumference. Okay, so I am done with all these stages. At last, it must get stopped. So these are the stages that we are supposed to take for the as the algorithm. Then we will convert it into the flowchart now. So which is the first step there? That is start. So to start, we are going to use the terminal. Then for input, radius. So RAD is the variable name that indicates it as a radius. So input, rad, which symbol it is? Parallelogram. Then when it comes to the calculation part, I am going to use the processing. What is the processing here? Calculation. I am finding the area along with the circumference, right? So area is equal to 3.14 into RAD into RAD. That is 3 pi r square. Then when it comes to the circumference, 2 pi r. So 2 into pi in the sense 3.14 and r in the sense radius. So in the output, we are displaying the area along with the circumference. Okay, so we are going to display area along with the circumference. Then at last I need to stop. That is stop symbol. With the help of this terminal, we are going to stop the execution. Okay, so these all arrow marks indicates the flow of data from one stage to next stage. I hope you understood how to write an algorithm and how to design the given algorithm as a flow chart. So it's all about today's session. In my next session, I'm going to discuss some of the example for flowchart along with what are the advantages and disadvantages that we have regarding the flowchart, and last topic, that is pseudocode. How we are going to write the pseudocode. I hope you understood with today's session. I'm going to meet you in the next session. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you very much.